The Industrial Revolution marked a period of unprecedented technological advancement. It reshaped societies, economies, and the very fabric of daily life. This era, however, also brought widespread exploitation, particularly of child labor. Factories and mines, symbols of this new progress, came at a devastating human cost. The well-being of countless children was severely compromised. Child labor during this period created a real horror that scarred generations. Children, often as young as 5 or 6, were routinely employed. They were perceived by employers as cheap and easily manageable labor. Their small size was considered a distinct advantage. This small stature allowed them to navigate tight spaces in factories and mines. Children were ideal for tasks adults could not perform, such as crawling into narrow mine shafts or reaching under complex machinery. They worked in inherently dangerous conditions. Tasks frequently included operating heavy machinery, often without proper training or supervision. Work environments were poorly ventilated, filled with noxious dust and fumes. Children endured excessively long hours with minimal or even no breaks. Their shifts often stretched from dawn until late at night. This relentless schedule left no time for rest or recovery. The conditions were brutal, designed for maximum output at minimal cost. Accidents were commonplace in these hazardous workplaces, leading to severe injuries. Children frequently suffered lost limbs, crushed fingers, and other debilitating wounds. Fatalities were also a tragic and all too common consequence. A pervasive lack of safety regulations contributed significantly to these hazards. There was little to no oversight to protect these vulnerable workers. Relentless pressure for increased production further exacerbated the risks. Children were constantly exposed to hazardous environments. Their small, developing bodies were highly susceptible to various diseases. Lung ailments, for instance, resulted from constant exposure to coal dust and textile fibers. Malnutrition was common due to inadequate food and meager wages. Many children were perpetually hungry, further weakening their resistance to illness. Their physical development was often stunted, leaving them with lifelong health issues. Child labor fundamentally robbed children of their childhood. They were systematically denied access to education, a basic right we now take for granted. Opportunities for play and social development were virtually non-existent. These young workers were forced into a relentless cycle of poverty and hardship. Workdays typically spanned 12 to 16 hours, 6 or even 7 days a week. This left no time for learning or personal growth. The lack of education perpetuated the cycle of exploitation. Without schooling, children had no means to improve their circumstances. This limited their future prospects, trapping them in the same dire conditions as their parents. Their lives were defined by toil, not by the joys of youth. The emotional and psychological scars of such an upbringing ran deep. It created a generation deprived of fundamental human experiences. The real horror of child labor extended far beyond the individual child. It undermined the very fabric of society, creating deep-seated problems. This system created a workforce that was easily manipulated and exploited. It hindered the development of a healthy and educated populace. A society built on the backs of uneducated, exploited children could not truly thrive. Widespread child labor contributed significantly to social unrest and inequality. Wealthy factory owners and industrialists profited immensely from this exploitative system. Their fortunes grew while the working class, including children, struggled merely for survival. This stark contrast fueled resentment and division. The economic gains of the Industrial Revolution were not shared equitably. Instead, they were built upon the suffering of the most vulnerable. This created a deeply stratified society with lasting consequences. The fight against child labor was a long and arduous process. It required decades of sustained activism, from reformers, philanthropists, and concerned citizens. Legislative changes were crucial in addressing the issue. Gradually, laws were enacted to limit working hours and set minimum ages for employment. Social reforms slowly but surely improved working conditions for children. These efforts eventually protected children from the worst forms of exploitation. The legacy of child labor in the Industrial Revolution serves as a stark reminder of the human cost of unchecked progress. It highlights the dangers of industrialization without ethical oversight. It underscores the enduring importance of safeguarding children's rights and well-being. This dark chapter in history compels us to remain vigilant. It reminds us that economic advancement must never come at the expense of human dignity. The lessons learned from this era continue to resonate, shaping our understanding of justice and compassion.